Hi everyone, it's Mel Cherrygate again with Whoever You Are podcast. I have another guest. We've been waiting for doing this for a while now. Her name is Gemma, and she wrote a book, which for me it's like awesome. I think it's awesome. And the name of the book is This Is Not Your Fault. And actually the title explains itself a little bit, right? But I'm gonna let her talk a little bit about it, and then we're gonna share, um, our journeys. And like I always do, it's a conversation, it's not an interview. And so let's do it. Hi, Gemma, how are you?
I'm really good. So I'm actually joining on here live from my holiday in Lanzarote. So yeah, that's why I've got the glorious weather behind me. So yeah, and it is interesting actually because the last drink that I ever had was on a big family holiday in Greece 3 years ago. And I was 5 days into the all inclusive holiday when I had my last ever sip of alcohol. And I still had 5 days left to go. So my first 5 days alcohol free after a lifetime really of drinking was on an all inclusive holiday. So yeah, this has been my first big family holiday that I've been on since then.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
And
it's quite significant, really. It's just interesting that on the last holiday I was doing that, and on this holiday I'm doing this. So yeah, it does
awesome.
feel a bit surreal, but it feels really good.
Yeah, I can imagine that it must feel like amazing because what people don't realize is that when you're making the right choices, your anxiety slow down, depression, because you are aligning with yourself and with what you believe. And so, for who is watching, they think that I'm gonna stop drinking, it's gonna be boring. It's not going to be boring. It's not easy in the beginning. You have to really want to and make a priority. But once you start to navigate life, you see that it is much more joyful, because I think for me at least is because I am being truthful to myself.
Yeah.
I was not.
Yeah, it's being authentic. I actually watched something yesterday and it said that authenticity is actually a higher vibration than even love. I don't know whether that's true, but I can kind of get on board with that because
Yeah.
I think, and that's like what I'm always aspiring to be, as authentic as I possibly can be. Because the more authentic that we show up for ourselves and to others, the less guilt and the less we just feel like we are being so true to ourselves. You sleep
Yeah.
better at night, definitely.
Yeah, everything, it gets better. But you do have to in the beginning, because with the people that I really want to reach is people that are struggling, and because they really need the help, because we are, thank God, in a place that now we can feel proud of our journey. I'm starting to feel proud of my journey now, you
Yeah.
know. And but people, when I was in addiction really really hard, I could not see that, happening. I just feel bad about myself. And like we were talking before, Gemma was talking about how society like almost make you drink because it's something that it's very like all I was talking about movies and TV series. It's all about alcohol, and we are engaged to drink since we're young. And every celebrations, oh, bring the wine, and it's such a part of our society. But then, when it becomes a problem, we are the ones that are the bad ones.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like sort of part of the reason I wrote the book, This Is Not Your Fault, because I absolutely believe that this is not our fault. I feel emotional even when I just said that, because Like, I really feel strongly about it. I feel like we're encouraged to drink. You know, when we reach 18, we're, oh, you can drink now when everyone's buying you bubblies. And we even like get given the, you know, the wine glasses with 18 on. You know, let's celebrate that we can drink alcohol. But the problem is, you know, those of us who've got personalities where maybe we don't always recognize where our limit is. The
Hmm.
problem is then is that someone's being my doorbell. The problem is then is that we don't know where that limit is. And I think I sorry, I'm on a no, thank you. I'm so sorry. Then that was the maid at the door. She's coming to clean the room. Yes, I think we don't know where our limit is. And then I think the problem is then is like, you know, we're like I said, we're encouraged to drink, you know, but those of us who don't quite know where our limits are, then you know it's almost like when we take it too far we're the problem. And that's one of the reasons that like I wrote the book, is because I wanted people to understand that it can be such a lonely place. Like when you're in that place and you're just riddled with shame and guilt, and you feel so bad about yourself, and all you I remember saying, this is all my fault, this is all my fault.
Mm.
And I just wanted people to know, like, no, this is not all your fault. The reason one of the sort of themes in the book is I really wanted the book to reach people who were in that place where they're feeling the guilt, they're feeling the shame. And I wanted them to the book to help them get them out of that guilt and shame vibration. Because I believe that it's very difficult to make changes and be motivated to make changes when you're in guilt and shame vibe.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can grow when you're in a place of judging yourself, or a place of shame, because then you drink just to forget that, and then it becomes that, you drink to forget that you're drinking. It's
Yeah,
for me, it was like this, I was drinking just to forget that I was in that place, and then the guilt and shame, and then it's just
it is.
that roller coaster, and then you can find a way out. And I do say to people who are listening that if you are in an addiction, very very like hard addiction, that I was, like it was physical. It was not just more for my mind state. It was physical. I needed the substance. And then you should really go to a hospital or a clinic, because it's dangerous to stop by yourself, right? So I always say that, because sometimes the people who's listening, they also start, I'm not going to drink, I'm going to be shaking here, I'm going to, hold on. And don't do that. Reach for help,
Yeah,
because you need it in the
yeah.
beginning.
There,
And
there's very different levels, isn't there, of
yeah,
addiction. And there's even different levels of just having a problem. I think a lot of people that have bought my book, because I know a lot of the people who've bought it because they've shared, they're not necessarily have an addiction, but maybe they even recognize that, you know, they would like to drink less, and for whatever reason. And because everyone's too much is different to someone else's.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
for one person, I'm drinking too much. Maybe I'm drinking Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm drinking excessively. I'm binge drinking, and that may be too much to them. But for someone else, I wish I could just drink 3 nights a week. You know, it's
Mhm.
different for everyone. You know,
Yeah.
but we all know it becomes a problem.
Yeah, because it's progressive. I didn't start like this. I started drinking for just to having fun, to go out, and then I would drink with my husband for a happy hour, and then I started to drink more and more, and then I got addicted. So nobody starts an full blow on alcoholic. So that's what I want people to understand. Doesn't mean that if you drink on the weekends you're gonna get where I get. But the thing is it's just to demystify the alcohol in society, and people to understand that it's not good for them in any amount. But I think that people are so ashamed, to say, and sometimes I know I used to do that. I used to fool myself, like, oh no, I only drink for happy hour. But the truth is that I was drinking just after 5, 6, but I was drinking a lot
Yeah.
after 5 or 6, you
Yeah.
know, and then it started to the heating, because then you're drinking too much, and then you feel shame, and so it is, if you're thinking that you might have a problem or you want to stop, you really should look into it, because it can get worse.
Yeah.
And so it's complicated, because like you said, it's such a spectrum of drinking, and that for me, if I could drink just on the weekends, it would be awesome.
Yeah.
And for some people, oh my God, I have to drink every weekend. So it comes and goes. But I think we're here to just to bring awareness and to remove the shame. Uh, I think in all episodes that I do, it goes to the shame. You know, we end up about the shame, because because the people that we want to reach usually sometimes are so ashamed to admit to themselves. So it's hard to get to them.
Yeah. And I think again, society does a good job of helping us to feel like that. I also think as well, like there can be a little bit of a misconception that people who have got real problems with alcohol are of a certain class or social, status. But I think like I was really high functioning. I had a really good job. I had a really good salary. I worked in a really, really, a massive organization. And I was going to work every day, you know. And, there were times where, I'd get off the train in the morning and like I have, gone in and got like a little bottle just to have a quick, just to be able to walk in the building. That is when I knew, right, okay, like
There's something.
can't even like I can't even do like my and this is where it was started to get really bad where I knew because before that I was just always waiting for like a reasonable time to be able to have a drink, you know.
Yeah, I know.
You could wait for it to be 6 o'clock, then it was 5, and it was always just trying to all day was trying to think what time was reasonable. And I think the moment the lid comes off that and then it's just like whenever I can fit one in, then it is a problem. But I was holding down like a really good job. And I just think there are so many people that, so much pressure. People who are really high functioning, they go to work, they do it, they hide it well. They're smart people, as I am, and I was, and I was hiding it. And I've even had like close friends saying, like, was it that bad? Like I hid it well,
Yeah, it's
although
true for
we
a long
think we
time.
hide it well, but sometimes people can
Yeah,
slip, we think
yeah,
we
yeah.
hide.
We think. I definitely was a high function alcoholic for a long time. Like I would hide and drink, and then go to a birthday party, and just pretend I was not drinking, and I was hiding drinking. And when you start to have to drink to do something, maybe it's because you don't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I could definitely, like, I don't I don't go to parties anymore, because I kind of learned now in sobriety that I'm not much of a party person.
Yeah.
And, and then I would dream to be that. And then I was. And so it became my identity. And then it was so hard okay, it's not who I am anymore. Maybe it's never who I was, because I've been drinking for such a long time that I can't even see, like, am I a party person, or am not?
Yeah.
Because it becomes one thing. I was always drinking. So you don't know who you are.
Yeah. I think to go back to the shame thing, like, and I read this like before, and it always stayed with me. So what people do is, I did it, you probably did, is we build almost a museum of shame of everything bad we've ever done.
Oh
And
yeah.
we put it all there, and we get all our bits together in this museum of shame. And then we move in and we live in it, and we live in this museum of all the bad stuff that we've done.
That's an awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is like this, and you keep playing your mind.
Yeah. And you can see it all. And now, even though I'm talking about it, I struggle. It takes me longer to find something bad I've done than before I lived there. And I
Yeah.
couldn't find anything good. If you ask me, well, you must do good things, Jem, I wouldn't be able to think of any. But now, like now I have to read, I have to think back to find those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful for that. But I definitely think that, like, we all make mistakes. We're humans, right? Everyone has made mistakes. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the greatest mistake is not making the mistake. The greatest mistake is replaying it every single day. That is
Yeah.
the real mistake, you
Yeah,
know?
because then you can get out of that. It becomes like unbearable to be sitting with yourself, just with no drugs or alcohol or anything, because you feel so bad about yourself that how can you gonna sit with yourself and be comfortable? You can't, because you're not comfortable,
Yeah.
you know. And I think it comes full circle. You start to drink to fit in sometimes, to feel better. Sometimes you have anxiety, like I have, or depression, and then you go to the place that you're feeling shame on top of your depression, on top of your anxiety, and then it just escalates, and it becomes. I felt trapped, like I could not see a way out. And how did you manage to stop? I mean, when was your big like break that you was managed to stop and don't come back?
So for me, it was on that holiday 3 years ago in Greece on this big family holiday. I was going through the worst grief that I have experienced ever. Like I lost someone who was just so important to me. And to all of our family, and then I was drinking anyway, but
Hmm.
that was, to experience that in the midst of my drinking, it was not a good recipe. So we've gone on this holiday, um, and I found out in the morning that I was trying to get into my room, but I'd basically climbed over the balcony, and I think we were like 8 or 11 floors up, but I couldn't remember doing it. So like, I'd woke up the next day and I'd been told what I'd done the night before, and I had no recollection. I was climbing over a balcony, but my family had seen me. They looked up and seen me. So like the next morning, I'd come out on the balcony and I couldn't. Like I would be a bit emotional, sorry, but
No,
like
just be emotional.
I came out on the balcony the next morning. I realized what I'd done, and I remember being on the balcony. And I would say this is one of the lowest points of my life, because I knew this can't go on, but I didn't believe I had the power to change.
Oh
And
my God.
that is my darkest one. That was my darkest moment. And you know what? Like, I really wish that everyone who's in a dark place knew and believed that your darkest moment is the doorway to your higher self. And so many people don't get to find that out.
No.
They're in their darkest moment and they don't know that if they just push the door open and they can get through it, that's where your higher self you'll find. And that's like, I wish that everybody knew that. Like, That was my darkest moment. I couldn't, and I remember I stood on the balcony and I was gasping for breath. It was took my breath away because I was so frightened. There's this fear. I need to change, and I don't believe I can. Like, where do you go from there? I need to change. I don't believe I can. And I remember, and it does, like, you got to find fun. You have got to have a little bit of laughter in the stories, and this did make me laugh because I've been at the all-inclusive bar from morning till night the entire time that we've been there. And pretty much for the last few years, I've been at the bar. And I remember I couldn't breathe, and trying to catch my breath. And I looked across, and I saw, like, in the entertainment doing yoga. It was like
Mm.
10 in the morning, and they were doing yoga. And
Oh
I
my,
looked, and I remember thinking, I can't breathe. And I just thought yoga, breathing, and I ran. And I didn't even put anything on. I had my bikinis on, and I ran. And I run across, and I sat down. I grabbed a mat and I sat down, and I don't even know how I got there. And I literally just got into the position, whatever position it was. And I remember my husband just walking past, and he said, "What are you doing now?" Because I was just such a menace at the time. Like, every time anyone looked at me, I was doing something bad. And he looked over, and I remember just going, "Yoga," as if, like, what else was I be doing, you know? And that moment does always stay with me. Like, but do you know, like, in that moment, I was like, just focus on your breathing. And in that moment, it really got me through. And I think that's where I started to lean on these things,
that's
started to
amazing.
find, yeah, like, and I literally think that was my darkest moment. And it was like that yoga was happening for a reason. That, like, may have saved me because I was on that balcony, and that was the lowest I've ever felt. I thought, I am such a liability. I have ruined the holiday. I'm costing everybody everything. I'm robbing my family of their peace
Yeah,
just by existing.
yeah, that's
And
true.
yeah, and like, I'm emotional because, like, I'm on the big family holiday again, the first one since, and I remember people saying, "I'm never going on holiday with her again." And I'm
That's
back.
that's beautiful, actually. And you really should take that moment to feel that you're there and sober and you're doing amazing. You wrote a book, so you have to be emotional. You have to take it in because it's a big, big, big thing.
Yeah, it is. And I got the book here because we bought it. We're gonna go donate it now to the bookshop locally. But one of the chapters in the book is sit with it.
Mm.
And you mentioned it earlier, and any of us that follow these kind of things, you'll always see people saying, sit with it. You got to sit with it. Sit with yourself is the hardest thing to do, but practice makes perfect. Well, not that I believe in perfection, but the more that we sit with it, the easier it becomes, because the first time you sit with it, it's unbearable. You want to run, you want to drink, you want to do anything not
Anything.
to feel that feeling.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and the more that we do it, the easier it becomes, and the less we have to sit with. And in the
And,
early days, it was
and
unbearable.
yeah, and I think actually it does start to get to a point that it's pleasurable to sit with yourself, and but it takes time.
It does. It does.
But I mean, just listening to your journey, you can see how many beautiful things you can do when you're sober and recovering that you would never be able to do if you were drinking. The last 2 months, I did more in my life that I did in 5 years drinking, and I swear to
Yeah,
God, it's true.
yeah, absolutely.
And it takes you to a place in your life, if you allow it, to be so beautiful. And I don't want to be a cliche, but cliche are truth, right? So it gives you all those opportunities to be so many things that you never thought you could, you
Yeah,
know? And for me, it's crazy when I think about that. Like, okay, I'm doing a podcast about this because I had my lowest also. And it was, I told you, right, that when that woman in the supermarket told me that she was praying for me,
yeah,
and and that was it. It was my lowest moment, but it also became the most beautiful one.
And since you told me about that, I've thought about that. Like I've thought about that 8, 9, 10 times since you told me that. Because it was a beautiful story. Do you know what? Like what I thought about was there are people like that, but like, compassionate people who can see that, behind the drinking, you were a good soul and she wanted you to make it and she was rooting for you. But then on the other side, there is the other side where there's the shame, where people would say, "Oh, she's in here every day, she's having a drink," and I just think like, thank goodness for those people who are still there, compassionate, and can see beyond the people. Don't just look at someone as they're an alcoholic or they've got a problem, and see beyond that. Because another thing that is I've talked about this so much in the last 3 years is the alcohol is not the problem.
No,
The
it's
alcohol is our solution, actually,
for
to
what we.
our problem. Before the alcohol, there was pain. And, I think like as a compassionate person, you'll see someone with a problem with alcohol and say, and Gabor Mate, who's like, I'm a huge fan of Gabor Mate. He's a guru. Like, I love him. But he always says, not why the problem, why the pain.
Oh,
Always pain before. And I think that's what it is. When we look at someone and people may watch this and they may not have a problem themselves, but they maybe have a family member who's got a problem.
yeah, exactly,
It's so
exactly,
easy to look at them and say, why can't they just give up the alcohol? Why can't they just, stop drinking for the people they love? And we all
exactly.
feel like that. Why can't I do this for the people I love? And it's because we don't love ourselves.
Yeah, and you just it's really hard to explain for who never been through that. That the thing that should just stop when you are in it. It's like uh, I would feel a sense of despair and uneasy just to think about not having something to drink. I always needed to have alcohol somewhere, when I got to my darkest moment. It needed to be there somewhere. I could not go like, okay, the supermarkets are going to close. I don't have where to buy it. What I'm going to do, I would walk if I needed 3 blocks
Yeah,
just to
I've
buy.
been there.
That's what addiction is.
Yeah,
And I tell for the person that is listening, that think that they may have a problem, that they are drinking too much, starting to feel shame, go get help because you don't want to go to the bottom because it's really hard.
it is.
It's a really dark and sad place. But for you that is already and you feel that you are already in that low point in your life that you can see like to take a break or to breathe is like we're in the ocean and you can catch a breath, right? That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Go help, reach out, because sometimes you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And there is a huge community now, especially on social media, and you're leading this here, and so many people will be able to sort of watch and listen to other people's stories, and it is so important. And I think like the big thing for me that I've found that I'm just is it still takes me back every day is that I didn't see anything except what the drinking. So I remember in the early days, I kept saying, there's millions of things in the world. There's millions of things to see and do and experience. And one thing
It's
is
taking
chained.
everything.
I'm chained to one thing. And then when I gave that up, you move that, it's there, isn't it? It's always there. It's at the forefront of your mind. And when you remove that, just like start seeing everything. and I see
Then
things now that I feel like I never looked up. I look at the sky and I look at the stars and the moon, and I feel like, did I
well,
ever look up?
you're too
I was just always
distracted.
looking down at my drink to see how much I had left. Like, literally, I didn't look at anything what was going on, and I was missing out on so much. And this holiday has been fascinating. It's been fascinating. I'm
It
looking
is
at
right because you
I'm
don't
looking at
expect
things.
that, right?
Yeah, I'm just looking at things in a different way. Like, I'm walking around and I'm seeing like the flowers and and when I was drinking, I would have been like, I would have rolled my eyes at me. I would have been probably triggered. This me would have triggered the old me,
Oh
definitely. I
yeah,
would,
for sure.
yeah,
For
I was being like, oh,
sure.
but yeah, like I'm just seeing everything, and all I just would love to be able to do is to show like anyone who's like at their lowest now, or not far off. Like, I just wish that we could really help them to believe like
Yeah,
what's on the other end of it. Like, and it is not easy. This has been 3 years. It's not been easy. This is the best I felt, but it hasn't been easy. And I've written in the book, there's a part I call the messy middle, where you don't know who you are anymore. You can't do any of the things you used to do. You don't know who you are without it. You don't
hmm
feel like you can be fun, have fun, are any fun. You just don't know where you are or where you fit anymore. And you have a bit of an identity crisis,
yeah, completely. Yeah, because you don't
Um,
know,
no,
like,
it's
what,
not
where am I
easy.
from? No, it's
It's
not easy, but I think like give it a chance to the other side.
Yeah,
if
it's
we've been
worth
drinking,
it.
yeah, we've been drinking, doing the same thing for years. So give it a chance to the other part of you that knows that it's not good for you. But it's hard. But we're here to help. And if people want to reach out, just reach out. I love to help everyone. The only reason I'm doing this is to help. Like you wrote the book because we know how it feels like. So that's why we are here. I know that I'm here for that, and I really hope to reach so much people. And that's it. Just go one day at a time. And I say when you're really really bad, it's not one day at a time. It's a second at a time. It's a minute at a time.
It is. It is.
That
It's a
you have to
moment.
control yourself. It's like no, no, no. It's not a day at a time. A day at a time comes after when you're already feeling a little better.
Yeah.
But it's second at a time. So do what you have to do. I just went to rehab. But if you don't feel like, but just go to a place or to somebody's house that really loves you, and reach for help, send a message, and there's this whole community, and just don't be afraid to reach out
Yeah.
because we know how hard it is, and but we are here for you. And you can do this, I think, right?
Yeah, there's a huge community now as well on social media that's building. And I think I'm really only like since I've written the book, I'm really realizing and understanding how important that community is, because when we give up alcohol, we almost step out of the community that we're used to being in, because there's still a community, whether it's a drinking community or not, it's a community. So when we step out of that community, we feel very lonely. It's a very lonely place. And I actually think like we can connect with others even if we're not in the same room. When you and I had the first conversation, like
hmm
I remember being on that call and I cried. And when I came off the call, when you told me your story, I cried. And I came off the call and I thought, I just connected more with you in that moment than I have maybe with lots of people in the last few weeks. Even though, I always see people I love, but we had such a connection. You can
So
connect with a stranger and very quickly they become not a stranger because you've shared similar experience, even if they're in another country. So don't feel all my friends drink, what am I going to do? Well, we're having these connections now.
And do believe connection is the opposite of the addiction. You know,
100%.
because we do not connect when you're drinking or using drugs because you're not yourself. We connect when we are present. And I also felt the connection, and I couldn't wait for you to tell about your book. And I'm so glad that we're finally doing it. And
Yes.
I've been talking to people almost in daily basis, and it's so awesome to have this community and people like commenting, "Oh, I interview her, I love her, oh, I love her too," and it's
Yeah.
so such a good feeling. You know what I wanted to do? I want all the people I interview to go to a retreat together because
Yeah. Sign me up. Welcome.
it would be so cool. Maybe it's a project. Maybe
Definitely.
it's
I think
awesome,
so.
right?
Definitely.
Jim, I want to thank you so much for sharing. I'm gonna be uh, um, linking your book, your Instagram, and everything, and it's been so good to connect. And I'm so happy for you because I can see in your videos, in your posts, and just looking at you how good you're doing, how happy you are with yourself, and you should be. Like you wrote a fucking book, for God's sake. Sorry about the fucking.
Yeah. So
It's
yeah,
awesome.
and as soon as I wrote the book, I went from being someone who I always told myself I never finish anything. And see, because I told myself that, I never finished anything. And when I did the book, now I'm like, I always fill surveys out and things online. You see something and it asks you some
Yeah.
questions. Is that, are you the type of person that finishes at what you start? Never, ever, ever
Ever,
think
ever.
yes in my life. And now I'm like, yes, I
Yeah.
am. And now I'm like, now I just got that confidence. But it just takes for us to do something. And then we say we do it. Then, so yeah,
Yeah. And
sky's
you
the
think
limit.
you're much more capable than you ever thought you would be, right?
We all are. We
Yeah,
all,
exactly. Yeah,
we
we
all
all
are.
are.
Yeah, yeah, we really are.
Oh, lovely to talk to you.
Thank you
So,
so much for having me on. I've watched all the people that you've had on, and we have a bit of imposter syndrome. It's like you watching all these people. I'm like, really? She's interviewing all these people, and now I'm going on, and we all still have those little things that. So, but yeah, like I'm really grateful, and I'm just grateful to catch up with you, and I hope we stay in touch. And yeah,
of
let's
course, we
do it.
stay in touch, girl. We keep
Yeah,
talking,
yeah,
and I'm gonna when I post, I tag you and I let you know, and keep having a great time there because you're doing so good.
definitely. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Awesome. Keep doing what you're doing as well. It's
Yeah, I
amazing.
will. I will.
Amazing. You're
Bye
doing
bye.
awesome.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye bye.